do it a little more. Yeah.
Dip right before we start. So
okay, we're going to go ahead and start.
Yeah, let's all gather round. I don't know if there's still anyone in the restrooms.
I think there is. We have the wonderful Amaze who are now in the house. There we go.
Yeah. So welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Kauai and our second Power Talking from the Heart, which we developed because we thought it was a great way for us to get to know each other better. And so,
get to know our community.
And get to know our community better, yeah. So every month we pick a topic, and 4 speakers get to speak on that topic. We have no idea what they're going to say, so
if you can understand how frightening that is to people who found it and run the center. But
so when you give somebody the microphone, you know, you have a lot of faith and trust. Anyway, but no, these are 4 wonderful, amazing people. So I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful evening. And the topic is things that go bump in the night. Yes.
Ooh.
So what else
this is Reverend Rita, by the way,
case
you have never, I know you know us, but in case you don't, Reverend Rita, Reverend Patrick. A couple of announcements because we're known for them. A couple of wonderful announcements. Tomorrow night we're having our spiritual cinema, which is the last Friday of every month, and it is Coco. Because of Halloween, would be really lovely to.
Coco is the Pixar film.
Pixar film.
And the Day of the Dead.
Which Rita called cartoon last night, and someone corrected her to let her know it's called animation. Animation.
Dates me.
And that's it. And always Sunday we celebrate here at 9 a.m. It may be early, but we've been doing it for almost 6 years, and y'all still come at 9 a.m., so that's beautiful. And then next Tuesday, very special ones, we have a greet and meet, which is when we bring a new thought, not speaker because usually they've passed on, but we bring their, we bring we bring an evening that we get to know more about them. And this Tuesday, I'm very excited, is Neville Goddard. And so if you haven't heard of him, he's just brilliant. So Stephanie Starr is going to spend an hour.
About the law of attraction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's it for tonight. Believe it or not.
How y'all feeling? Yay.
Good.
And if you get cold, I just washed the sarongs. I keep telling everybody I just washed them.
But she didn't call them sarongs. What did you call them at home?
Pareas or something? Pareas.
Yeah, I said, what are you talking about?
I got that from Reverend Diane.
You mean sarongs? Yeah.
What'd she call them? Rappy wraps? Whatever you want to call them. They're clean and they're back there if you get cold, because it does get cold in here. We don't have a lot of regulation on the temperature. I don't know why. It just either is cold or hot.
Exactly.
What can I say?
And there is a love donation basket out there that keeps all these wonderful evenings going. So thank you for that in advance.
And there's also some bananas back there from
There are. And coffee and tea and
organic apple bananas from someone's tea.
And we're pretty good. I think we've done a nice warm-up act for them. So we'll all take an applause and go somewhere I don't usually sit, in the back of the room.
Stay here with me first. So let's just take a moment, though, so we can all be centered and so they can be centered, our beautiful speakers, and just take a moment to recognize that one presence, that one life, that one source that's right where we are. And it's here tonight in this wonderful event, and blessing the words of these beautiful 4 people who are going to be up here just inspiring us. I'm just so grateful for every moment and knowing that we're just getting a perfect gem from this whole thing, each of us in our own individual way. So it's the perfect evening. I bless it. I give thanks for it. And I just let this word go as I affirm. And so it is. All right. Thank you. So our first wonderful speaker is Natalie Kelly, and she is a board-certified hypnotherapist. Did you know that about her? Maybe you did, and maybe you didn't. She is also a brain recovery coach, and she told me she was an aspiring motivational speaker, but I told her she was a motivational speaker. So here is Natalie Kelly. Yay. No. Patrick, you gave me a bum mic. Okay, we're on now. We are on. So when I was a little girl,
I loved Helen Keller. Did anybody else love Helen Keller? Yeah, it was the era, right? And I would go to the library and I would read every book I could find about this amazing blind and deaf woman. And I especially loved her for saying, life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. And so at 18, I decided that was going to be the guiding principle of my life. And because nothing at all didn't sound like a satisfying option, my life was going to be a daring adventure. Now, up until that point, I had been pretty scared my whole life. I was shy and insecure, I was scared of people, and I decided that courage was a muscle I needed to develop. So I would exercise my courage muscles the way my dad was exercising his biceps in the basement. And I was embarking on a daring adventure of my life, and I needed superpowers. So I took out my notebook, and I made a list of all the things I was afraid of, all the things going bump in my night. And instead of avoiding them like I always had, I decided to turn around and face them one by one and embrace them. It's such an empowering thing to do. Has anybody else here ever done that? Really empowering. So I imagined my fear to be a little man who sat on my shoulder, whispering fearful thoughts in my ear, and I would turn to him and go, "Oh, thank you so much for your love and your concern. I get you're trying to keep me safe. And you know what? I'm in charge here, and I'm going to do this anyway. I'm good, and I'll bring you with me. And together, we will do this. And thank you so much. I love you, little guy." And with that, he was pretty content to be quiet and just come along for the ride, and I'd strap him on like a backpack, and off we went. So the list began. And at 21, I went backpacking in Alaska, all by myself for 6 months. Now, back then, probably still, Alaska's a wild place, and there was one woman for every 7 men. Now, that was scary. So I headed into the wilderness, and I climbed the 50-mile Chilkoot Trail all by myself. And then I learned how to stalk grizzly bears. And I watched in awe, carefully downwind, as mama bears would teach their baby bears how to scoop up fish and eat them out of the rivers. I was out of food, and I was hungry too, so I tried it myself, and it turns out it's not so easy without claws. So I stuck to berries. And then I faced my next fear. I worked with youth at risk, delivering transformational programs to youth gangs in the toughest parts of the country. And I learned to love those kids that I never wanted to face in a dark alley. And then I did a transformational weekend and faced my biggest fears of all. I learned how to talk to other people and be emotionally intimate and make real friends. And don't you sometimes find those inner demons to be so much scarier than stalking grizzly bears? So what I learned was that each time we face our fear, we gain courage and strength and confidence. And we have all experienced that. Can you think of a time in your life when you faced a fear? And I bet your sense of yourself got bigger and your sense of fear got smaller, right? So it's a really good thing I spent my life exercising courage muscles, because there comes a point in everybody's life where we need courage superpowers. And even all those macho things I did not prepare me for the biggest bump in my life. So in the summer of 2010, I'd signed up for sailing lessons on Lake Champlain in Vermont. And my ex-husband never let me sail our boat. It was one of the many places I felt disempowered by that relationship. So at my first sailing lesson, I actually introduced myself saying, "I'm here because I'm free from my marriage, and I'm taking control of my own life, and from now on, I'm taking the tiller." Little did I know that that would be the day that I lost control of my life completely. 10 minutes after I took the tiller for the first time, Suddenly, out of nowhere, a storm came with gale force winds, and waves were crashing over the tiny boat, and lightning was coming, and I couldn't turn the boat around. And the boat capsized. And every time I tried to right the boat, it would throw me 30 feet. The first time, it knocked the wind out of me. And the second time, it put a gash in my arm clear down to the bone. And the third time, it flipped me over the somersaulting boat so fast that it twisted my brain, creating shearing. And then the boat bumped me on the head hard enough that I split my bloody front tooth out into the lake. That was hard. And it was the beginning of my new life with a traumatic brain injury. Unable to tolerate light, sound, or motion, I spent much of the next 3 or 4 years in stillness with my eyes closed. My brain could not understand what I was seeing. It was as if I was blind, only nauseatingly worse. My vision was 1.5 bouncing images of everything and distorted like a hall of mirrors. And I walked with not one white-tipped cane, but 2. Like I used them as antennas to help me understand where the floor was. I actually wished I was blind, and suddenly I was Helen Keller. Any motion of my eyes or head made me completely disoriented. It still does. I had so many problems, it would take days to explain, so I won't. But I'll just tell you the scariest part since we're talking about fear tonight. If my brain got overstimulated, which didn't take more than a flickering shadow sometimes, my brain would turn off like a light switch, and I couldn't think, open my eyes, talk, or move. I got stuck places, outside grocery stores, laying on sidewalks, on buses, unsafe neighborhoods, snowstorms, completely paralyzed for hours with no way to ask for help. And I would just lay there focusing on sending my brain love and talking to it the way I used to talk to that little man. I was told I would never get better. There was no escape, and I was suffocating with fear. I didn't want to live. What I would have given to have been able to fight, flight, or flee from it, but all I could do was the 4th F, face. This time, I really had to face all my biggest fears. And you know what? My sense of self got bigger, and the stuff I used to worry about completely disappeared. And I started to see how the mind and its desire to keep busy makes up problems for us that aren't really problems. So I say this to give us perspective that it's really all going to be okay. We don't have to control everything. Fear is a made-up story about what could happen projected into your future. And if you made up that story, you could make up another story that's empowering. Some days that's impossible, and then the next day, try again. So I was 47 years old and diagnosed with dementia, wondering how I was going to live my life like this. I was writing a book on how the mind heals the body based on my years as a hypnotherapist. But what in the world do you do if you can't access your mind? How in the world was I going to manifest anything good ever again if I couldn't focus my thoughts? Well, I knew that the heart had intelligence, and scientists now say that it has more neurons than the brain. So I figured I would just navigate my life with my heart. And I learned that thoughts don't manifest the stuff in your life. Feelings do. So I became like the fool in the tarot deck. I would bypass the brain and just love and be love. I was meandering the world with my walking sticks, so vulnerable. And I knew if I could maintain purity in my heart and be as close to God as possible, that my needs and my children's needs would be met. And somehow or another, they all were. It all defied logic. So this is about losing control and trusting. And angels catching us everywhere, teaching us real love. Somehow I found myself with my heroes who would have intimidated me before and scared me. Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, Michael Beckwith were praying for me. But who really blew my heart wide open were the homeless. And they became my new heroes. Countless times they rescued me with loving care and made sure I didn't have to sleep on the benches with them. And these beautiful souls became my teachers. And humility is a great leveler of humanity. No one person's better than anyone else. We're all a head bump away from crazy or homeless or imprisoned. And if you want to hear these stories, you're going to have to read my book. It's getting there. So to build our courage superpowers, we need to learn to distinguish between real danger and our amygdala's knee-jerk reaction. And then we can notice the sensation of fear in the body and ask ourselves, is my body really in danger of dying? Because that is the beautiful purpose of fear. And most of the time, the answer is no. And then by choosing love instead, like sending love to that little man on your shoulder, which you're welcome to adopt, by the way, the focusing on the love vanishes the fear. So I invite you to begin to notice when you're run by your reactive reptilian brain and when you're run by your prefrontal cortex or your thinking brain. That's the next frontier of our human evolution. Because we are all losing control. I just went first. We are collectively crossing the threshold of greater planetary uncertainty. And the chaos in the world is providing each one of us an opportunity to rapidly evolve our consciousness, but we have to make the choice. And it's not just one choice, it's moment by moment. And if our reactions lower everybody around us, then making a conscious choice collectively lifts everybody up. Our survival depends on it. And when you do this, you're building new neural connections. You're literally building a new you. Your past does not need to equal your future. You have a choice. Every time you repeat a thought or behavior, you're wiring your brain. Your thoughts matter. In fact, your thoughts are becoming matter by becoming neuroconnections. In neuroscience, we say that neurons that fire together wire together. Neuroplasticity, it's not difficult. We're already doing it in every moment, so we might as well do it consciously. In every bump in the night of our lives, there is a gift. And if we want to be happy, it's our job to find the gift in every challenge we've faced. This is how to make peace with the past. Now, that gift's not going to be readily apparent. That's what makes it a treasure hunt. And it's the work of seeking that gift in the manure pile that makes the gold shine even brighter when you find it. I have learned so much from this challenge. Nothing has propelled my spiritual evolution more, and it's not over. I still struggle. This life, this body, this brain are a very precious gift, and we take it for granted. So I'm here to remind you that your life is precious. Your brain is precious. It's what makes up you. They will never, ever develop a computer anywhere near the complexity and brilliance of your unique brain. So take a moment now and give your brain thanks and love the way I did so many times. Your body is miraculous. And we think we're imperfect and that we're not enough, when in fact, we're a miracle, even in our apparent brokenness. God doesn't make junk. You are more than enough. All you have to do is claim it. Life is pure magic. It's the one thing scientists can't really explain, and that magic is you. Ultimately, there's nothing to fear in those bumps in the night except facing our deathbed, knowing that we could have lived more or given more, been more or loved more. And if life is God's gift to you, what you create out of it is your gift back to God. So go, build your superpowers and live fully your one precious, beautiful life. Thank you for the gift of your attention. I love you.
Wow. Kind of need to take a deep breath after that, huh? Thank you, Natalie. Wow. Wow. Okay, so I think we'll have a little bit of a chance after we're all done to maybe ask questions if we want, and have just a brief discussion. We'll bring everybody back up here at the end. But for now, our next speaker is Reverend Kaya Abendroth, who, if you've ever heard her play the trumpet, who has? Oh, yeah, she's pretty amazing, right? And sometimes she'll just jump up here and start playing, and we're just always amazed by her. And she also, if you didn't know this about her, is an interfaith minister. So here she is with things that go bump in the night. Okay. Reverend Kaya.
Hello, everybody. All right, hold on. Let me get myself together here. Oh, I'm so excited to be here and to get to be a part of this. That was so amazing, Natalie. I'm just like, oh, I'm going to have to take a nap later and just think about all of that goodness. So, yeah, things that go bump in the night was a great topic. I started thinking about, what does that mean, you know? Is this like a good bump? Is it a bad bump? Does it have a beat? Is it like a musical bump? Is your neighbor like playing samba music next door? Is that the type of bump? Or is it like boogeyman bump, like you're trying to go to sleep and now you're scared because you heard something? Or is it like you can't see where you're going and you ran into the door kind of bump and now you have a bump? There's lots of things that bump could be. But one thing that it did remind me of was a story that I heard in ministry school. So I thought I would share it with you tonight. And I thought I would invite my fortune teller, storyteller persona to come out. Hello again. I am now not Reverend Kaya anymore. I am Madame Vanessa, and I'm here to tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a great king, and he lived in this beautiful castle, and every day at noon, he would call on one of his servants to come bring him some snacks, the best kind of snacks. Probably a different kind of snack every day, because he was that great of a king. So one day, his servant comes up, it's noon, and it's one of the female servants, and she's wearing some bracelets, some bangles. And as she's moving and carrying her baskets, they're clinking against each other and making sounds. And the king is like, oh, it's distracting and it's bothering me. Can you take one of them off? So she takes one off, and still they're clinking around. And he asks, oh, can you take another one off? They're still too loud. So she takes another one off, and another one off, and another one off, until there's just one. And then when there's one, no longer can it make any more sound against the others. And in this moment, the king, who was actually rather spiritual, had a realization about our human experience and how our sense of separation from life can cause a friction and a dissonance and a discord for us. And that as we allow ourselves to come back into unity with ourselves, there's a type of harmony that can come from that and a peace. So that is the story of how this king experienced a moment of enlightenment thanks to some bracelets. So that story inspired me to see how can we create, how can I create personally, how can we create more of a sense of unity in our experience. And I had been playing this game with emotions, and anything that I share, feel free to take it or leave it. This is just things that I'm doing for fun for my spiritual journey. So if it works for you, go for it. Don't feel pressured. I was doing this thing with emotions. So if I'm feeling an emotion like sadness, I was considering what would it feel like if I reconnected that emotion back with its opposite. So if I'm feeling sadness because I got this amazing tomato at the farmer's market and now it's gone bad because I forgot about it on my windowsill, I could reconnect that with the corresponding happiness. The only reason why I could feel that sadness was because I love tomatoes so much. And I got so excited to eat that tomato, and I couldn't wait for it to ripen. So only because I was able to feel that joy could I even experience the sadness and that sense of lack. So tying those things back together, reminding myself in my time of sorrow why that sorrow could even exist, tying the joy back to it. In my time of anger, reminding myself, what passion am I feeling? What is it that I do want, So bringing the emotions back together. Do we need a demonstration about tying things together, like things that you can tie together? I mean, you could tie like a ribbon to your arm and get really literal. You can like tie other things together if you want, like, you could take elephants and you could tie them onto your music stand, or you could, take like wind chimes if you really want. You could take some wind chimes and you could tie something on them, or you could tie them to something. Like you could tie a small bird to your wind chimes. There you go. It's different now. It was just wind chimes, but now it's wind chimes with a bird. The point is, we have creative power. So when we tie these things together, whether it's physically, literally, or in our emotional body, it really does make a difference, and it changes the feeling and the experience that we're having. Okay, talking about loud sounds, I was playing trumpet the other day at Trees, and I was all excited because I had this new gadget that I was working with. It was this multi-effects pedal, and it was maybe the second time I had ever played it in public, and I only really practiced with it a small amount beforehand, but I feel good about it. I was like, yeah, it went really well the first time. It's going to go great. So I'm playing, and all of a sudden, I step on a button that was not the button I meant to step on, and I had no idea what that button was for. But turns out, if you step on it, something happens. And the thing that happened was that it switched over to this whole other setting that I didn't know about and completely fed back the whole system. So this high-pitched screaming sound just came out into the audience, like all of a sudden out of nowhere, completely terrifying sound. So I just stood there like in shock, and then I tried to turn it off and I couldn't. And so it went on for like a good 10 seconds for everybody. It was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? It was really terrifying. And so finally we get it to stop, and I've turned off my little system, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna restart it. It's gonna be okay. So I restart it, and I turn it back on, and guess what happens? It happens again. It just starts right back up again, and we turn it off really quick. And it was such a traumatizing experience as a performer, because here I am with this love in my heart. I love to play so much. I can't wait to share this beautiful music. And instead of sharing something beautiful and uplifting, I'm assaulting your ears with the most horrific high-pitched sound I've ever heard in my life. So after the performance, I noticed that I was having flashbacks of that moment. It was still affecting me. Kind of like in a bigger picture, something like post-traumatic stress would be like. And I realized that if I didn't do something about it, it was just going to keep coming back into my mind. And when it did, I wasn't feeling excited about that memory. I was feeling memory of panic and some sadness and frustration that it had happened, a sense of self-consciousness, like what were people thinking. So I decided to tie something else to it. I said, what if I could tie something else to this memory and alter some of the sensation of it? Not to get rid of the original sensation, but can I add some softness to it? And so I went into meditation and I prayed to my angels, and I said, angels, can you give me a different way of looking at this? And what I heard was that every time I heard that sound, that memory, I had that memory, it was a reminder. It was a reminder from my angels to learn everything there is to learn about that petal, because there was so much that I hadn't learned yet. And I was right on track to actually potentially not really dive into everything that it could do. I fell into a habit of kind of using the parts I was familiar with. And when I think about everything that it can do, I start to feel excited about learning more about it and realizing that I'm like at the tip of the iceberg of what that thing can do, and I really would like to learn more. So as the night progressed, I had that memory come up a couple more times, and I was like, oh yeah, that's my angels reminding me to learn more about my petal. And it completely changed my emotional experience. And similarly, we can use this tool of tying things together for some of our bigger life experiences as well. Like, looking back, I see how it was a similar process. I had experienced some abuse in a relationship. And as I came through into a place of forgiveness and realizing that, which came when I realized that I had really learned some important things and had some important gifts from that challenge, it tied itself back together. It found more unity. I saw that in that challenge, it came with a unique and beautiful gift. And I saw that without the one, there couldn't have been the other in the way that it was. And in that unity, I found peace. I found that the judgment dropped away of myself, of the other person. I found that forgiveness came into my heart. And I realized that I was genuinely grateful because I could sit across from somebody and love them better and show up as a better version of myself because I was so aware of what it felt like to be treated poorly. So I think sometimes things show up in the darkness. They show up with their shadow to see what's not, so that we can become again into what is, so that we can find what we do want. So tying those gifts back to the challenges, or tying a positive message back into something that may seem like it was just completely random, can change our experience and create more of a sense of wholeness and harmony. And you can even do it for little things like developing a new habit. This was one of my favorite recommendations for habits, was that you take your new habit and you tie it to an old one, because new habits can be tricky to integrate. So if you want to meditate every day, tie it to brushing your teeth. So if you brush your teeth every day, I mean, maybe you don't. We're on Kauai, you never know. But doing that works. And so going to brush your teeth, oh yeah, like, have I meditated? I'm going to do that right now after I brush my teeth. So tying things together in ways that can be helpful for us. Even wearing like a little reminder. This is like, reminder to have fun. This is another moment of life that I can have fun. So I wanted to have fun with you guys tonight. This is my reminder. Yoga means to yoke, to bring back together again with spirit. It's a practice of coming back together again. So my invitation to you, if you so desire, is to have fun tying things. Tie some pretty fun things into your life. Find like some sparkle. Find some sparkle and give it to somebody, or tie it to something that maybe isn't as sparkly for you in that moment, and see if it can add a little extra shimmer. So that's all, guys. Thank you. It's going to be loud. Just a little bit. Not too loud.
You got it. That was great. Thank you. What a great tool to have, tying things together. Thank you, Kaya. All right. So our next speaker is dear to my heart, Deb Valentina, who also is on our board of trustees here at CSL. But she's an amazing life coach. For those that have worked with her, I'm sure you can attest to that. She is also a published author, an editor, and a very good one, and a motivational speaker. And I'll let her tell you the rest about her. I don't want to give anything away. Deb, that's your mic. Make sure it's on. Make sure it's on. It is. Good.
Oh my goodness, it's so great to just look out and see all you beautiful people. Yeah. Thank you for coming. So, I must confess that when I first heard the title for this Power Talk, Things That Go Bump in the Night, I literally had no idea what that meant. So, I had to ask Rita what was meant about things that go bump in the night, and she replied via text, like things you're afraid of. And a light bulb went on. Oh, those things I don't want to look at. Okay. And as it turns out, fear is the perfect topic for me at this time. As some of you know, I will be leaving the island in a month to move to Denver to follow my calling to be further trained as a speaker. I envision and am being trained to speak in front of large national and, dare I say, international audiences about my journey and the journeys of those I've coached over the last 32 years. Cannot believe it's 32 years, but yes, it has been. And I'll be speaking about various aspects of what I call dancing with masculine and feminine energies. And it's my dear passion, and it is all about my journey from being very masculine to going to my blingy shoes, which are not masculine at all. So although I am very certain and excited about my decision, the big fear that came up for me was around being seen, about shining my light too much, too bright. Shining my light has terrified me most of my life. What I have had to overcome in order to make this choice is my family voices in my head that said, don't get too big for your britches. You may relate to this. And who do you think you are? With an undertone of to outshine or out-succeed anyone else in this family. How dare you? And my father's frequent admonishment to me, not to my other sisters, but to me, I need to knock you down a peg or two. So, I have spent most of my life understating my power, my light, which, by the way, we all have. Yes, we all have this big, bright, bold, beautiful light. And the ironic thing is that as a life coach, I have seen and encouraged this bright light in every woman and man that I have ever coached over 32 years. So I am clear, very clear, that each and every one of us are amazing beings of light and love. I have no doubts about that. So by saying yes to my next calling and no longer allowing these past voices to get in the way of what I have come here to be and do on this planet, the universe has quickly swooped in and backed me in small and large ways. Spirit has opened doors for me, from obtaining funding for my very expensive mastery program in Denver, to selling my furniture and household possessions with ease with one person who bought 95% of my belongings, to meeting some of my new Denver spiritual community. And as serendipity would have it, my very first New Thought minister from Scottsdale, Arizona, Reverend Michelle Medrano, is now the current co-spiritual director at the CSL Mile High Church in Denver. And I just returned yesterday from a Denver apartment search, and in one day, I found the absolute perfect place to live, including an office space inside the one-bedroom apartment. And so, it is my time to move forward, having moved through the fear. And this is the important part. Not around it, not bypassing it, but going straight through it to the other side. Into the freedom of expressing what's next, as I have empowered hundreds of others to do the same. So, I am so very, very grateful to this island and my community for the safe, sweet cocoon over the last 4+ years, where I have grown and evolved in quantum ways. My new favorite word, quantum ways. And so I have moved beyond the fear into the butterfly stage, where I joyfully spread my wings and fly into my grand new adventure. I will miss this beautiful island, but most of all, I will miss my dear friends and my community, which is you all. So thank you for your listening.
Wow. We have some pretty amazing people, don't we? That we know on this island. It's just like, I'm always in awe. So I'm going to read this exactly as it was given to me. As I hand the microphone over to the next person, who says he is a fellow, your brother, and someone just like you. Jonathan Lee.
Oh, it's just an avocado. There's a motorcycle driving by. What is that? Oh, it's a cat by my door. It's snow landing on the roof. It's a pine cone. It's just a pine cone. Wait, what is this? What is... I can practice tomorrow. I've had enough practicing for today. Things that go bump in the night. What are these things that go bump in the night? When this topic was presented to me, I went with words. I like words. I dive deep into where the words come from. And so, not many people know, but one person does, and I talked with her about this, and she responds to me, "Good Lord, deliver us." And I went, "You know. From ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties, and from things that go bump in the night, good Lord, deliver us." An old Scottish prayer. So old it doesn't have a date. And yet this idea that something in the night is going to come for us that we need deliverance from. And of course, the night holds that space where our senses are somewhat askew, that the light that we cherish so much is so very dim and far away. What is a ghoul? A ghoul is defined by the Cambridge Dictionary online as being a demon that feasts on human bodies, dead bodies, and a ghost, the disembodied spirit caught between the living and non-living, not yet going to heaven, hasn't gone to purgatory or hell or somewhere, or this roaming spirit in the world around us. Long-leggedy beasties. Something is going to crash through your building and eat you. And these things that go bump in the night, the unknown that's right in the back of the psyche saying, you better be prepared because your life is at risk. Something is coming for you. What is that? What is that sitting in the back of my who I am that stands there vigilant to keep me alive? What is this? This fear. The ghoulie. The fear that the disembodied or the dissouled body, the body after we have left it, is going to get feasted on by something. The ghost. The fear that when this time has expired, that we may not know where we're going, that we may not have a destination, that ultimate fear of what the self is going to go through at the moment of its last breath. The beasts, the fear that this body might get damaged in this life today, and the things that go bump in the night, the unknown, the fear of separation, the fear that I have no meaning, that I have no purpose, that I might die. This fear that something might come for me when I'm not ready, that I haven't got to fulfill my life, that I haven't got to live the life that I so cherish, that I haven't got to express myself in the way that I feel that I can, that something might get taken from me in a way that is totally and completely unexpected. These fears, I can't see them. They're in my back pocket. They're in the car. They're in the person down the road. I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they are. And they're out there. And they're constantly saying to me, hey, here I am. And I'm just part of you. These little fears, all these little fears, they stand opposite me. The fear is going this way. And the further it goes this way, the more uncomfortable I get. And that uncomfortableness is the distance I'm getting from myself. And I turn around, and with that same intensity, I can see me standing there. And in the opposite direction of that fear is where I am. Here, ever sound, ever safe, ever pure and whole, the divine potential in this moment. The author is in the book. We have authors in the room here. Take you away and your book is gone. Everyone who reads your book is reading you, is feeling you, is connected to you, knows you in a way that they don't know that they know you, is hearing you. From within themselves, you are speaking to them. And in that same way, the author, that which has authored the sun, authored the moon and the stars and the trees and this earth, that author is bound in this being. I am unable, without strength, without power, of distancing myself from that author. And this is what fear is telling us. The fear is standing up as a witness and a teacher, as far away as I can get from myself. That uncomfortable stands forth and says, look, there you are. And with that same intensity, I turn around and face myself. And here I am. And the fear is that teacher. May it be small, may it be large. It is forever telling us exactly what we are. If it's fear of the unknown, the known is always with us. That we are safe. That this body is sound. There isn't anything that can take this body except for that which has authored this body. That this breath was put inside this body in the same way that it is put upon the wind. That which has authored this is in control of it. And it is beyond this little Jonathan. Jonathan is forever being shown how much that he is a part of this wonderful grandeur that is everything about us. For me, a great fear has been subversion and interruption. And I have this idea that I can get interrupted. That I can get disconnected from that truth. Even so much so that when I was preparing for this talk, I thought that people coming before me would use my material. And I had this, like, what if they say the same things I want to say? What if they look up the poem or the prayer? What am I going to do then? And I was gently reminded that when it's all said and done, it's all said and done. Who do I want to be? This night is going to be over. This microphone is going to get laid back down, and Patrick's going to pick it up again. Nothing I can do about that. I don't get to stand up here again, maybe. When it's all said and done, who do I want to be? Because I have that opportunity right now. When it's all said and done, it's all said and done, and there isn't anything there to be afraid of. Here I am. Here I am, and here I will always be. There isn't anywhere I can get to that I would be somewhere else, because I go over here. Here I am. Here I am. Oh, yeah, I was spacing out, and that's where I was. And when I was there, I was here. I'm not getting away from here. And so who do I want to be in all of this? When all of this is done, I'm going to be me, and I'm going to be me. I'm going to have as much fun as I can. And sometimes that fun is saying, man, I really hate what I'm doing. God, I don't want to be doing this work. And I listen to myself, I go, you having fun yet? I'm out on the beach, and I'm picking up plastic. And I'm picking up these pieces, and I'm telling this story to myself about how horrible it is that I'm picking up plastic and how these poor people in the world are making plastic and they don't have any other opportunity in their lives, and this is the job they're stuck with. These people in China chained to their machines making plastic, and I'm just boiling over in hate. And I hear this voice in my head, and it says, why do you hate me so much? And I said, hate you? I love you. You hate me. You have asked me to show up in as diverse a way as possible, and I have, and you hate me for it. Why do you hate me? And I was a little ashamed, and I was sitting there in that moment. I go, okay, so what do I do then? There's all this plastic. And that same voice says, tend to your being. Tend to your being, Jonathan. Here you are in this moment. You tend to your being, and I'll tend to everything else. And so then I asked myself, who was I going to be? Well, my hand did this. Because that's all, that's what I was doing. It didn't matter if it was a shell or a plastic or a piece of wood or a nail that I dropped when I was putting up the fence. My being was happening the whole time. Here I am. And that being is already. This is the simple little choice that I have in this moment. Is the nature of my being. Am I going to let go and let that which is be? Or am I going to do something about this moment? Am I going to jump all over everybody? Am I going to make up some big story as to what's happening? And am I going to run that story around in my head all day? There's plenty of circuses on earth that we can go to. There's a big one in my head. And so every moment I have the opportunity of returning to my being and recognizing that here I am. And even in this simple little idea of Jonathan, without getting grandiose, without saying, yeah, Arthur the Sun's right here. Just simply here, now. There isn't any other moment. We're not going to yesterday, and we're never going to get to tomorrow. This moment, this breath, this moment, this breath, this is a new one, and I get to make of it what I want to make of it. This is the moment that I am. Here I am. And how big does that I get? I don't have to say it to you. I don't have to go around and tell everyone, here I am! Hey, did you know that I don't have to say any of that. Because that I doesn't need to say it. When that I holds all in its breath, who is it going to speak to? I don't need to run around and tell you how big I am. Because I would be telling you. And then you wouldn't be me. And then we couldn't be one. If I ran around and told you how special I was. Because the only thing I can see out here is mirrors. Every single one of you. I can't see you. I wish I could. I go on and on and on every day thinking, Thursday Coup. He's got a Aloha shirt on. The only thing I can see out of any of you is that which I know about myself, that which I've experienced. And I'm gonna turn everything that's going on in this sensory perspective that we have. It's going to go in my eyes and it's going in my brain. It's going to be translated by my experience, by the way that this brain has been conditioned to process information. We may like the conditioning or we don't, and some people get a change in their conditioning. And I get to see you. And the more that I look, the more I see. The more I rest in this moment, the more beautiful you get. The more I lay down the labels of myself, the more the truth of you I see. And it's such a joy. It's such a joy to sit back and breathe you in. Because I know in that moment that I'm breathing more of me in. And it's the only thing I get. This breath. Because the next one, it's not guaranteed. There's nowhere I get to go from here. I'm never going to get there. And I can't go back. For anything that I'd like to do differently, it's already done. I'm going to start fresh now. I know that you're new. I know that this moment's new. I know that I'm new. Some people come to the coffee shop. I started working at Small Town Coffee. It's a lot of fun. It's my stand-up window. You can come join me anytime. They come up and they have a cup of coffee in mind, and they say nothing because everyone else makes their coffee for them. They just go, okay, here's the regular, and I go, yeah, what would you like today? The usual. And then that would be because this is a new day. Okay, so I tried on the old cup of coffee shoes. I started getting in the routine. I'm like, okay, Joe gets a Kevlar. Tony gets a coconut milk latte. Joe shows up, doesn't get a Kevlar. I'm like, okay, Kevlar. And he's like, no. And now he doesn't get a Kevlar at all anymore. I've infected him with newness. Thank you all so much for being here. Just, I get to be around beautiful people every day, and I love it. This is a beautiful home. I get to play here. And when I'm having a hard time, I remind myself that I get to start again now. Thank you all so very much.
Let's have them all come back up.
You know what was so beautiful is, did you notice?
You ready?
Yes. So we're just about to bring him up.
Could you guys
everyone.
come up, please? Please come up.
4 of you.
Yay.
Take a bow, my friends. And you can stay up here and go ahead and have a seat. We're just gonna. How this is gonna work is.
Do you want to sit down?
Yeah, you guys just grab any chair except one that somebody's sitting in. What was so beautiful, Jonathan, is that I noticed where I was. You saw where I was sitting. Yeah. I was sitting at the soundboard back there. So every week I look back and there's Jonathan, there's Rob, and all of a sudden I went, "Wow." I'm sitting where Jonathan is sitting, looking up at it's the one place I haven't sat to watch it. So how we work with this is that it's not so much, putting them like what about their story. It's about stuff that came up for you about this topic, and if anything you would want to share, and then we run around and we'll put a microphone in your face and you go like this, and then you'll just do that, or anything you do want to ask them. So it's just a little 10 minutes.
Just an open floor.
Just an open floor, like something that struck you when you heard the story. Yeah.
Meg has something to say.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for your courage and open-heartedness. And I wanted to say I've seen Jonathan around. He's so quiet. I had no idea all that was in you. So that was well. You're a brilliant speaker. I was. And I just want to say that for me, it just, the whole, the stuff that Natalie started out with, it was all intertwined, the whole neural network and tying the brain waves and how thoughts turn into matter. I really appreciated that. The quantum stuff, I mean, it's so awesome how everybody seemed to have a very similar thing that rang true for me. So thank you, guys. It's beautiful.
Anybody else?
Anyone else want to share anything?
Hi. All your stories are amazing, and all your deliveries were fabulous. The common theme seems to be whatever you're afraid of, go straight towards it, go straight through it. And I loved how Jonathan said, there's nothing to be afraid of. Because we all get afraid of stuff, whatever it is, large or small. And it's one thing to say, I'm going to walk to it, I'm going to walk through it, but to realize there really isn't anything to be afraid of, that was very well said. And that will stay with me. Thank you.
Yeah. Jonathan, I also want to throw in, you guys are just brilliant. Someone said at the last one that we had how wonderful it is to get to know the different people that sit here, that you don't get an opportunity to know what's really inside these beautiful people. We know it somewhat because we've worked with these beautiful people. But what I really has stuck with me with this, Jonathan, about the plastic, because when you said, "Why do you hate me?" I was sitting back there wanting to just fall apart. And not because of just plastic, but because If we dare to hate anyone else for what we think that they're so much doing, then we are hating ourselves. It doesn't mean that we're not socially active. It just means that wow. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Gentle and yet harsh reminder that I was, yeah.
Anyone else? Going once? Yes.
I just want to acknowledge a moment. I just changed my voice. I don't think it was the microphone. There was a moment when each of you spoke that your voice caught, and that really moved me really deeply. I felt in that all that was not said, that was present inside all of what you were saying. And I just want to, I took the microphone to bow to you in honor and respect and gratitude for the gift of both bringing your life into so much care that you could share what you've shared with the focus, and also allowing yourself to give us the gift of really connecting with your heart in the moment.
That is so beautiful. Yeah.
Careful your water.
And
Yes.
for trusting
Richard.
us with your story.
I think you're all awesome. I've heard that word so much, I'm sort of sick of saying it, but it keeps having a lot of meaning for me, so I'll say it. I'm just struck how all four of you are on the hero's journey, heroine's journey. And I can just feel your momentum in your lives, each one as you spoke. It's just extraordinary. It's been very inspiring for me to share in it. I felt it very deeply, all four of you. It's a very beautiful thing. I do not like coming down from Princeville at night and driving to this. I don't like driving at night going up to Princeville, but I knew I had to be here tonight for whatever reason. And I'm very, very happy I'm here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the call. Who else? Yes. Were you wanting? Here and then back there. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Jonathan, I don't know if you can repeat something. I'd like to hear it exactly how you said it. It really got me, and I want to know it. I want to live it. It was something about the less I label me, the more of your beauty I see, or something like that. Do you even remember what you said? Because you were so extemporaneous.
For everything that I call myself. For everything that I call myself is going to take away from what's out there. And so it's I don't have the exact words, no. But it takes away from your beauty. Every label that I put upon myself takes away from everything else that's available.
That is so profound. That is so down to the core. Thank you.
I just want to thank each and every one of you for showing up and showing out and allowing me a little better glimpse into who you are. Thank you so much.
Transparency, you guys. Vulnerability, all of that. They just got up and allowed that to be moment to moment to moment to moment. Wow. Anyone else before we close this incredible, wonderful evening?
Can I announce next month's?
Of course.
speakers? Yeah. Anybody else first? No? Okay. So next month it is on.
Okay.
Oh.
Going once, going twice.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you, Diana.
I whispered to you, but it was too quiet. Okay, now I'm going to get stage struck. I don't think it could have been a more perfectly, whatever, I started to say quartet, but like a musical piece with 4 movements, right? And it couldn't have been more attached if you guys had told each other every word you were going to say. And I am very deeply convinced that we are all one from that demonstration alone. So thank you for opening my heart and my mind and my funny bone, which is one of my most important bones. And I'm so glad I drove from Kaua'i, which I hate to do.
She was here last night. Yay. Wow.
Yeah, the two opposite spectrums. It's like I hear it every day. It's like, I'd come, it's 9, it's in Princeville, Kaua'i. Kaua'i is where we are.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for coming.
Are you going to
and
do that? Yeah.
Next month, it's on November 15th. What's the topic?
Gratitude.
It's gratitude.
We haven't
picked
given
the
it
title
its title
yet,
yet.
but we'll be hearing from Janice Ferez, who's sitting back there, William Garavito, Elizabeth Diamond, and Sue Buckley, who's sitting there.
She is.
She's like, I didn't know that.
And
Anyway,
who's hosting that event?
And Reverend Diane will be hosting. So it'll be on November 15th. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So thank you. There's a lot going on here, as you know, at CSL Kauai. And we give, tonight's just an example of all of the variety that we give. And it's so beautiful to see who comes to different events that we have. And that's the whole idea of Ohana, is that there are certain things that we're attracted to and we want to come to. And that's why we do what we do here at CSL. So before we go, I think we should do a little closing out for Charlie and his angels. I waited all night to say that, baby. I waited all night. And I just want, yeah, good. Yeah. So I just want you to know, Jonathan, that this drawer will be open for you again with this mic. I'm sure it will. Okay, so let's just take a moment to close out and just, let's just bathe in this profound, wonderful, delicious evening that we have shared with these 4 wonderful spiritual beings that have allowed us to just tiptoe into their personal world. What a gift has been given tonight. What a gift of giving. What a gift of receiving. And I know that no matter where we have driven from, what I know is that where we drive from now is a pure place that has never been touched by anything but good. And if there was ever a doubt of oneness, that doubt has now left us all with the understanding that we have never, ever been separate. That we have always been this divine flow that has always known exactly where and when and how to be. So I am just in full gratitude in this moment, full gratitude of the expression of the wonderful creativity that has taken place. And I know that each and every one of us go out separately, perhaps uniquely expressing, always remembering that we are always connected, that we are never apart and we are never alone. And no matter if we are driving our cars or picking up plastic or making love or whatever it is that we're doing, we are all here together as one. And that is the message that I receive from tonight and that I take out into my world. And I invite us all to do the same, as together we say with gratitude. And so it is.
You.
Mahalo.
Yay.